Thank you very much, Jonas. I'm Anna Lange. I'm a very recent PhD student here at SCIoI. I have a background in computational neuroscience, mathematics, and psychology. And sometimes people tell me that sounds very impressive, but my mom actually wanted me to be an artist. So you can be a roboticist and still disappoint your parents. Anyway, I'm here to tell you how we use social robots to understand social intelligence. And I want to start with doing something that hopefully you'll all enjoy after just having lunch. I would like to take you on a journey on a day in my life at SCIoI. So please all close your eyes for an imaginary journey. And imagine you're standing in the corridor of a university, and you start walking along this corridor, feeling the even floor beneath your feet. Slowly, a humming sound starts filling the air, and at last, you arrive at a large set of metal double doors. You push these open to enter the laboratory. You look around the room, and to your right, you see a robot that is imitating the behaviors and speech of its human interaction partner. You keep looking around the room, and to your left, you see another robot, a smaller robot, that is evaluating the trustworthiness of its human and robot partners. It is perceiving its environment and makes calculations to make decisions, helping us scientists to understand socially intelligent behavior. Take one last look around the room, and then please open your eyes again to come back to reality, where I want to tell you more about my research at SCIoI. So I work with human-like social robots so that they fit into known social contexts. And one important aspect is that they are embodied. So in this video, you can see it's a robot that exists in the real world. And we can tap into all these behaviors that are relevant to social cognition, for example, the nonverbal cues that Jonas mentioned earlier. But there is one important other aspect about robots and why they are so good for research, and that is that they are highly controllable for us researchers. And I want to explain how we use that to understand social intelligence by telling you a little bit more about an experiment or a project that I recently started working on, where we want to run 3 experiments to, in a step-by-step process, understand social intelligence. In the first experiment, we'll have a robotic teacher and a human learner. And actually, in all of the experiments, there will be a knowledge exchange between a teacher and a learner. In the first experiment, we'll model the robot teacher's behavior based on human teaching behaviors that we know from extracting principles from psychology. So, for example, we can adapt how much guidance they show to the teacher, or they might be able to lower the difficulty of the task to the learner. We want to look at how the human learner responds to this behavior, but we now have the controllability of the robot, and that we can control the very limited variables very precisely to better understand why the human learner responds and what the human learner responds to. For example, in a human, it's very hard to really control certain elements. If we want to control one element, many other might change that we are not able to control. So this is very great about robots. Then in the second experiment, we'll turn this interaction around, and the robot becomes the learner and the human is the teacher. And basically we do the same thing. So we look at how the human teacher responds to the robot learner that we'll again model after human learning behaviors. And then in the last experiment, which is the most interesting to me as a roboticist, we'll have an interaction between 2 robots, a teacher and a learner. And we will use the results from experiment 1 and 2 to improve the already existing teaching and learning models in the robots, to implement them in them, and then run interactions. What we can now also do, on top of having 2 controllable agents, is that we can run long-term interactions, which we again can't do in humans, because we can never, it's very hard in psychological experiments to keep the conditions the same over a long period of time. But in robots we can do this, so we can study the dynamics that arise. These might be things that we already know from human-human interactions, and now the robots can help us understand them at a deeper level. But they might also be completely new things that we hadn't yet known that they related to the variables that we set in the first place. So they can actually unveil completely new findings on social intelligence that humans don't allow us to access in the same way. Okay, so at this point, I'm going to change topic completely again. I recently went to Korea for a conference, and there robots are much more common in everyday life already. So I went to a restaurant, and I got my food delivered by a robot. I wasn't expecting to show the picture in front of many people, so it's not a very good picture. But there were still waiters around. The waiters just took a bit of a different role. They joked around, and they gave me a fridge magnet. The robot did a very good job at giving me the food. It didn't interact with me socially, but regardless, it gave me a very good an idea about that could have improved the situation my grandmother found herself in recently. So, I forgot to show the food. Oh. Yeah, sorry. So my grandmother fell down a set of stairs on holiday in Spain, and as a result of that, she had to spend quite a long time in hospital there. She doesn't speak very good Spanish, and she should have thought about it before getting herself into such a pickle on holiday. And despite her and the nurses doing their very best to make the situation work, some things got lost in translation. For example, that my grandmother is a vegetarian, so she sometimes got the wrong food delivered. And actually one of these robots, just with the translation tool implemented, could have delivered her the right food, made her very happy, and somehow improved the situation. But what now if the robot had more social intelligence? What if it can understand the well-being of my grandmother, either actively respond to it or maybe communicate this to the nurses? That can also be quite a nice thought. However, we're also currently seeing shortages in staff in hospitals and schools. And at SCIoI, we want to make sure, and we have very strict ethical guidelines in place, that we, in our work that's generally directed at understanding social intelligence, but can be applied in such contexts, works towards solving such problems, but never replacing the human, but keeping the human in the focus and provide support for them. And the panel discussion will go into more details. So the social robots are really good for understanding social intelligence because they're highly manipulable. We can control every aspect of their behavior, and we can run these long-term interactions, both of which are not possible with human participants. At the same time, they are acting like behavioral mirrors to the human, like in the thought experiment earlier. And then they let us look into their mind and trace back and understand these interactions. And here at SCIoI, we've already contributed to some key findings of social intelligence. So for example, Rasha mentioned earlier that, and you've seen it yourself in the example from Du bist mein Mensch, that once you received more context information, your perception on this changes. This is called top-down processes, and this is one of the elements we're working on. Another one is that when we are in a social interaction, we build a mental model of our interaction partner, whether this is a robot or a human, and this helps improve the social interaction and makes it more efficient. And we're also implementing or trying to implement similar models on the robot with first successes so that they can estimate the mental states of their interaction partners to improve their capabilities during social interactions. And yeah, this is one of my drawings, so you can judge for yourself whether I should have maybe become an artist. Thank you very much.